Hey everyone, you're probably wondering why I'm looking at a map of Disneyland. Well, it's because as I was perusing the Runehammer forums, I was reminded of a particular method or technique that I really enjoy and use all the time, and it's called the Amusement Park method. Now, the Amusement Park method is a style of running your campaigns or your games like an amusement park, kind of a mix between a sandbox and a linear style. And I thought the best way to demonstrate or explain that concept is by actually looking at amusement parks and how they work. Now let's imagine that Disneyland is our new campaign world. We enter in by Main Street, USA, and we're greeted by a lot of options. We have resources, we have a few things to explore, new NPCs. We can do a few things, whatever we end up choosing to do or explore. At some point, you need to choose where to go. For me, as a player, I know that my choice is always going to be Adventureland. I'm always going to go there first. As a GM, once I understand the direction that the party is going to go in, my focus immediately zeroes in, right? Everything else that's not in Adventureland doesn't matter. We're here in this space, and for an amusement park, this space is designed to kind of be self-contained. It's supposed to give you an experience within this area. Everything else falls away. So I've got a few shops, a few NPCs, a few points of interest, a few rides, and whatever the players explore, eventually they're going to get on a ride, like Jungle Cruise. Now this is where rides are your plot hooks, your threads, your dungeons, your points of interest, whatever. This is where your sessions happen, because once a player gets on a ride, they're on that ride. If I step on the boat on Jungle Cruise, I'm not getting off until it's over. This is where the amusement park method is so powerful and why I like it so much. It switches from this kind of open-ended sandbox to a more linear approach once the players have decided to do something, to follow a thread. When I get on Jungle Cruise, I'm riding down that river, jokes and all, and I'm just there for the experience. In a session, I dive into that dungeon and I'm exploring room after room, experiencing what that story has. I'm going to get through it over time, maybe a session, maybe two, or however you end up planning it. And once it finishes, I can get off the ride and I can get back into this kind of open exploratory space, and I can then choose the next direction that I can go on. And as a GM, I'm working with my players to understand, okay, what do you want to do next? What's interesting you? Are you wanting to stay in this space? Do you want to go ride Indiana Jones' adventure? Or, hey, do you remember you guys have that fast pass? It's up in 15 minutes. We better race all the way over to Tomorrowland to do, Space Mountain. Or, hey, do you see that peak over there? Maybe we should wander over to Frontierland. And this is where you can then start introducing and pulling in different directions, but your players are always choosing what to do or how they want to go about it. And then eventually they choose a ride and it comes back to the GM. You have the confidence and the control to kind of run your players through this ride, through this experience, through this thread and plot hook, and then they get off and it goes back to them. And it has this wonderful balance of back and forth. Taking another look at the amusement park, right, you can see that this world is contained. It's not infinite, it's not expansive, but it's populated, right? Over here on the list, you can see that there's a ton of stuff to do in the world, and there's a ton of interesting things. But what I love about looking at amusement park maps and why this method really helps understand how to run these kind of sandbox, these worlds in amusement park method, is that these worlds are populated, but they're not detailed. Runehammer does this in spades with the Worlds book. It's so populated, but nothing is set in stone. Jungle Cruise, like we said, like we knew that that's there, but what is it? Well, it doesn't matter until my players really choose to get onto it or they start getting an interest in it. Pirates of the Caribbean, what is that? Where is it at? Oh, it's over here. And if that's something that you're interested in, you work with the GM and they know, okay, our next space that we're going to explore is we're going to get off Jungle Cruise. We're interested in this thing that's going on over here. We're going to wander to Pirates of the Caribbean and get on, and then we run that session. They're in it for that session, and then they get off, and then they move on to the next thing. Because we plan one session at a time, we always know that our prep is going to never be drudgery. It's never going to be really a waste of time. I'm not going to plan small world and what that means when my players are over here experiencing Pirates of the Caribbean. I might have a small note about it, but that's where I'm going to stop. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm only going to prep as they move about in these kind of paths that we've built for them. As they move from one place to another and they choose to go on ride, then back off, and then to another ride, back off, and to another ride. It's always wander around, get on a ride, experience the session, get off of it, move on. You want to guide them. Amusement parks do this fantastically well. They're designed to do that. They're designed to guide you in one space, move you somewhere, keep you in a certain area, move you to the next one, and then keep moving and keep moving and keep moving, and then doubling back on itself until you've been to the park, your legs are tired, you've experienced everything you want to experience, and then you keep going back, and then you leave, and then you come back the next day, and on and on and on. And you slowly cross off things that you've explored, things that you've enjoyed, things that you want to repeat and do again and again and again. But that's a campaign. So, but what about actually, like, can I use the amusement park method in an individual session? How could I just run a one-shot or a single game using the amusement park method? Because I'm not going to run big campaigns. I'm not going to explore a whole world. That's going to take years. Well, you can. You can run individual games using the amusement park method. Switching things up, instead of looking at Disneyland, I've actually pulled the map for my local amusement park. Now, I love Lagoon. It's a much smaller park. It's much more kind of contained. It's got a ton of fun rides. But let's use this smaller amusement park to explain and work through how to run just an individual session using the amusement park. So same principle applies. When you come into an amusement park, into a session, like, you enter in with a purpose. Like, you know kind of what you're doing. I know when I go to Lagoon, I'm going to Lagoon. So I come in, and just like before, the very first place that I have is very resource heavy or whatever, but it's kind of open-ended. That's the main takeaway, is when you first open up a session, like, you've got some space, you've got some wiggle room, right? You do have a general direction of where you're going to go with the session. Like, you know that you're going to head up towards Rattlesnake Rapids, up here towards the top. And the first scene or two in my book is, how are we going to go there? Like, this is our goal, this is our climax, is up here at the top, but are we going to kind of wander this way past the merry-go-round? Are we going to, go past Tidal Wave, the pirate ship, past the lake, and kind of come up past Pioneer Village and enter in through there? Or are we going to kind of wander through the Kiddie Land? Or are we going to wander past some of the pavilions, kind of take the back roads, whatever, and still get to the same destination? So these first encounter or two, the first scene or two in my book is, let me present the general feel, the general, guidance. Yeah, I'm still guiding you towards that climax, because that's what we've kind of agreed upon. Remember, we're doing something more GM driven. Like, we're here on this adventure to do this thing. Let me guide you towards it. So these first encounters are more open-ended. It kind of informs us of how things are going to proceed, as well as it's going to inform me as a GM, like, are there going to be any kind of changes to the criteria? Are they going to encounter an NPC here in passing that they have an encounter with, and it goes good or bad, and then they reappear up here in the encounter, and depending on what they did before, informs and changes how things work in the end. But then about scene 3 or 4, they've had their freedom, they've kind of had their liberty to do what they want, their open-endedness. But eventually you hit a point in the session where you've now entered into the ride. You've entered into the vampire's manor. Like, like, and the door's shut behind you. You've entered the cave. You've spurred that inciting incident with the bandits. You hit that point and you're in it for the ride. Same thing. You are on Rattlesnake Rapids. You're on the boat. You're going through the water, and you're not getting off until the session is over. And once the session is over, you get off. You take inventory, and you say, "Wow, that was exciting. What do we do next?" And if you're now staying in this world, you look at your GM and you say, "This is what I want to do." Okay, well, we're going to take some time in between sessions. You go and visit the bathroom. You go to the shop. And then at the start of the next session, wherever you're at, so over here in Pioneer Village, you go, this is where we're going to start. And the next adventure is going to be over here at the Rocket. You plan out. The beginning is a little bit more open-ended. You go get a funnel cake. You go to the bathroom. You talk to these NPCs. You hit a point where you get on a ride, you're on the ride until it's over. Session ends, you get off the ride, repeat. For me, it's the switch between the open-ended and the linear that makes the amusement park method so manageable. I know it's helped me a ton, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Hope everyone is looking forward to a happy end of the year.